maybe go ahead and get started since we have 27 folks here and we have a lot of things to cover. What I will tell you, Michael, do you want to welcome everybody and then I'll give the introductions for how to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Michael Griffin. I am the chair for the partnership. I would like to welcome everyone tonight to the meeting. Glad to have each and every one of you here. It should be it definitely is an awesome agenda. And please participate as you see needful throughout the meeting tonight.
So the first thing we're going to do is introductions. And I did get quite a number of recipes, but I'm not going to stress over the fact that not everybody provided recipes. I will send out the recipes that we have. So we have amazing recipes, and that's how we're going to start the introductions. And then after we go through those, then other folks can jump in. So is John Andelin on the call yet? I don't think so.
No, I think he's still over at the foundation meeting.
Okay, well, there is black bean and sweet potato burritos that Liane is one of our guest speakers today. So Liane, will you introduce yourself and say a little bit about your recipe?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm Liane Rozzell. I live in Penrose, and my great grandparents lived on a farm in Enfield, North Carolina. Many years ago, they sent their children to a local school that was formed to educate African-American children after the Civil War. And that land, my mother sold it a few years ago. She and a cousin of hers sold the land to the farmer who had been farming on it for a while. He'd been renting it. And he insisted that she take some sweet potatoes because that's what he was farming. And so she said to me, "Do you want a few sweet potatoes?" And it turned out to be 2 huge boxes of sweet potatoes. And so I decided I needed to go on an adventure and learn many different ways of making things with sweet potatoes. And one of the ones that stuck that has become a favorite is the recipe for black bean and sweet potato burritos. I commend it to you. It calls for cheese. We're vegan, so we either eliminate the cheese or we use some vegan cheese. Anyway, they are delicious. You can freeze them and have them for later. So there you go.
And I'll be sharing all of the recipes with everybody. Okay, the next person, I don't know, is Rick on yet? No. I did crock pot stringy beef sliders. My name is Kim Durand. I'm with the Partnership for Children, Youth and Families. And this is a recipe that I have made in the past for these meetings when we usually are together and we do our potluck. And so I decided to go ahead and put it together. It's just from Pinterest, but it's so easy and I love it. And I always get lots of compliments. So I'm looking forward to sharing. Then the next recipe is Grandma Hines caramel corn.
Oh, that's me.
Yep.
I'm Judy Haddon and a member of the partnership. And I gave you this recipe because it's not like it's a gourmet delight, but it's easy to make and you can put it in bags or a little tin and give it to your neighbors. If you haven't figured out anything to give your neighbor or babysitter or something, there you go. It's really good. It was the favorite grandma's thing that she always had to make at Christmas time, in addition to a gazillion cookies and all that stuff.
I have to say, I looked at that one a couple of times because I love popcorn like that. So that'll be fun. Anne O'Brien, if you could introduce yourself and talk a little bit about molasses spice cookies. I thought I saw Anne on here.
Sure, yes, I am here. Hi, Anne O'Brien, community member. And I sent the molasses spice cookie recipe because I made it last year for our my office holiday party, and I got so many compliments on it. I was called by multiple people a well-balanced cookie. It was a great compliment. Hopefully that was the way it was intended. And I think it's because there's pepper in it.
Interesting. Okay, so those are the recipes that I got. I'm not going to make everybody think of a recipe. Oh, Dave. Oh, great. Did I get it?
I have one. No, I didn't send it to you, so I will send it.
Okay.
It's from the Keswick Inn near Charlottesville. And it's a real fancy place, much more fancy than what I usually go to. And it's for Christmas hot chocolate.
Ooh.
And we'll send it. And it's, I knew this was a good place once I was there and asked for the recipe for the delicious squash casserole they had. And it was equal weights, summer squash and butter. So that was tasty. So this has whole milk and 70% chocolate, molasses, brown sugar, and some other spices, then a separate spice mixture. You mix up 3 or 4 spices and sprinkle it on top. So it's not necessarily an easy recipe, but it's not going to be difficult either. And it's got to be good.
It's got to be.
Got to be good. I'll share it. And my name is David Carlson, and I'm a community member of the partnership.
So for everybody else, what I'm going to ask is that you share your name and maybe a food that you only eat this time of year, or some special treat that you allow yourself this time of year. And I'm going to go through and call you. So the next that I see here, Jamie.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Primdas. I am the Children's Behavioral Health Bureau Chief. And a food that I eat during this time of year is a leg of lamb.
Yeah. Next is Trini.
Hi, I'm Trini. I'm from the Arlington Teen Network Board, and a food that I really like to eat around this time of year is mac and cheese.
Laura Newton.
Hi, Laura Newton, APS, Director of Student Services. I love tamales.
Tamales. Siobhan Grayson. You're on mute.
Sorry. I'm Siobhan Grayson, Youth Outreach for Child and Family Services Partnership. And I tend to overeat during this time of year. So it's grandma's mac and cheese. I'm requested to make it, so I'm eating it from Thanksgiving until New Year's.
Yum.
But it's yummy.
Alisa.
Hi there, Alisa Cowan. And I would say I don't focus on the food. I focus on my family's tradition of using Spode Christmas tree plates for the month of December. So I change out my kitchen cupboards for the month.
That's awesome. Michael Griffin.
Food I eat is actually it's deep Southern food, which is collard greens and things like that. I eat a lot of different types of collard greens and mustard greens during this time because I have a aunt that she grows her own foods and vegetables and fruits and vegetables. And so she keeps those stored and shares them with us throughout the year.
Awesome. Michael Brown.
Good afternoon. Michael Brown, a community member of the partnership. I think the foods that I eat, that I cheat and eat that I shouldn't be eating this time of year are desserts that I usually don't eat a lot of desserts and can't, but I do sneak a little piece here and there over the holidays.
Yum. Kateri.
Mine is more, I really love Starbucks holiday beverages, and I really try not to go more to like local coffee shops, but I just cannot help myself around this time of year. I love their peppermint mochas and all that.
And you are?
Oh, sorry, I'm Kateri. I don't know my title. I'm a member.
Community member.
I'm a community member. And I'm a Teen Network Board alum.
Ben English.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a community member as well. I guess the recipe I would pick is a sweet potato tortilla soup. So Liane, you were looking for uses for sweet potato. This thing basically single-handedly got me through college. It's super good, super easy to make, and very tasty as well. So I really like that recipe.
Feel free to share.
I think I emailed it to you just now.
Oh,
Just now.
Oh, okay. Christina, thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm going to ask you and Nancy to say a little bit more later, but right now, if you could just introduce yourself quickly.
Happy to. I'm Christina Diaz-Torres. I'm the member-elect of the Arlington School Board. And I'm going to lead off, I can't remember who said tamales, but for me, it's pasteles, which is the Puerto Rican equivalent of tamales. Very similar concept, but they're only available around the holidays.
Interesting.
So good.
Megan.
Hi, my name's Megan Mack. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm currently serving as vice chair of the partnership. And I love Christmas Stollen, which I do not make, but my stepmom's parents used to send a really yummy one. And so it was always warmed up and on the kitchen counter in the morning at Christmas. And then all through the day, mostly my dad and I would take the knife that was left out with the Stollen and just take that little extra piece until it's gone.
Yum. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Well, I wish I could give you a whole list of all the things that my family used to have, but I'm going to be a bit of a Debbie Downer here and say that this is not always my happiest time of year because much of my family has passed away. So I eat a lot of chocolate.
Yum.
Particularly after 9 o'clock at night. That's the real. Particularly if I bought it to put in my kids' stockings and I have to go back out and do it again.
Sally. Sally, are you on mute? I'll come back. Lisa.
Okay, Lisa Kaplowitz with Arlington Public Health. And last weekend, we had the most spectacular potato latkes. My husband outdid himself, and they were unbelievably good.
Wonderful. Tabitha.
Good evening, everyone. Tabitha Kelly, she, her pronouns. I'm the Child and Family Services Division Chief, and a favorite thing to eat holiday. I make an amazing chocolate bourbon pecan pie. Yummy.
Good. Jeanette.
Hello, everyone. Jeanette Allen, Director of Administrative Services with Arlington Public Schools. I would say my favorite thing to indulge in during the holidays is eggnog, and specifically coquito, which is a Puerto Rican type eggnog. So that's what I prefer.
He's nodding on that one. Ava.
Hi, my name is Ava. I'm one of the co-chairs of Tea Network Board, and one food I like right now is hot chocolate.
I had some of that today. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I co-facilitate the NAMI Parent Support Group with Elisa. And right now, unfortunately, I eat whatever shows up in the mail. So I'm currently enjoying a bag of Moose Munch.
Ooh, good.
Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget Loft. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and I'm going to harken back to Jeanette's contribution. I crave and imbibe eggnog to excess, but my husband is from just outside of Memphis, and he swears that boiled custard is the way to go. He's wrong. So don't even try it. Eggnog is supreme, but we do have this holiday war every year. So,
Peyton.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Peyton Fern. I'm one of the co-chairs of communications at Teen Network Board. And every Christmas morning after we open up all the presents, my mom goes in the kitchen and makes the kind of like pull apart like monkey bread that you put in like the bundt pan. And we only have it on Christmas. So yeah, it has a very special place in my heart for sure.
Sounds yummy. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Harlan with Libraries, and I am not much of a cook at all, but at the holiday time, I harken back to my good New England, Maine roots, and often will go out for lobster of some type. So boiled lobster or lobster stew or lobster roll or lobster casserole or whatever. So that's something was always festive in our family for a holiday.
Huh, I wouldn't have guessed that one.
Mm-hmm.
Luckman.
Hi, my name is Luke Mon, Salahuddin. I'm currently the one of the peer-to-peer co-chairs over at TNB. I personally do not celebrate Christmas, but one thing I really enjoy making are brownies or peanut butter cookies when it gets cold out.
Yum. Lizzie.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Coomans. I'm one of the other co-chairs of communications at the Teen Network Board. And I think my favorite holiday food would have to be candy cane brownies. And we add marshmallows, so it's super festive and super delicious.
Awesome. Kim?
Kim DeBlau, community member. I shared a recipe for mashed potatoes with a Spanish twist incorporating manchego cheese and olive oil. It's by Jose Andres. We're big fans of his.
And it'll be in the booklet that goes out. Abel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abel, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the Vice Committee on TNB. And my favorite holiday treat would definitely have to be candy cane, because that's just what it is for me during the holidays. Because traditionally, like, my parents don't really celebrate it as well, like Lukeman.
Anna.
Can you hear me now? Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I'm also a community member. I am a Teen Network Board alum. And unlike some other people, I really don't like chocolate. I don't eat any chocolate. So my favorite thing this time of year is all the sugar and shortbread cookies in the shape of snowmen and all that.
Yum. Alicia.
Hi, everyone. Alicia Guajardo. I am a community member and co-chair with Kim DeBlau, the Youth Mental Health and Wellness Committee. A couple years ago, I transitioned to a vegan lifestyle. So the last 2 years around this time, I've been enjoying veganizing all of my recipes so that I can still eat Christmas cookies and all of the yummy, other things that come with the holidays. So don't have one particular one, but that's been actually kind of a nice challenge to have.
Awesome. Sally, if you unmute yourself, you are the last person unless I've forgotten anybody else. Okay, maybe she's having some problems with mute. Did I forget anybody? I'm looking around the room. All right, we are very happy to have Christina Diaz-Torres joining us this evening and Nancy Van Doren. So if you all want to introduce yourselves a little bit more, Nancy has been our amazing school board liaison for 2 or 3 years now. But as she's rolling off, we're happy to welcome Christina. So Nancy, if you want to go first and then pass the torch.
Thank you, Kim. I've actually been the liaison since July. I rotated into it and was sort of the placeholder until I believe, am I wrong, Kim?
I thought it was longer, but it does change periodically.
Right. So, well, I wanted to start out by apologizing for not being as active as I would like to have been. These meetings are often at the same time as other board meetings, so it precludes my participation, but I hope that I've always been available to people if they needed help, but that's neither here nor there. I did reach out to Christina. We, on our board, Monique went ahead and gave out the assignments for the new board members coming in. And as soon as I heard that Christina was going to be taking over this liaison role, I wrote to her and asked her if she could please be consider coming tonight so she could listen to the presentations, which I think are going to be excellent, and she could get a jump start on her becoming a board member, which she will officially be sworn in on Monday. So you could all attend that. And then her first board meeting will be the first week in January. So I just want to thank you all for doing the great job that you do. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina.
Thank you for that, Nancy. Yeah, and let's just give Nancy a round of applause for all of the work that she's done on this committee as your liaison, but also in all of the other work that you've done over the years for APS. You've really been
And wait a minute, I need to show off my sweater.
Oh, your sweater.
Oh, goodness, that's excellent.
That's the best I could do, folks, tonight. I did that for you.
How lovely and holiday themed, delightful. Well, hello everybody. I'm Cristina Diaz-Torres. I was honored to be elected to the Arlington School Board in November, and I'll be sworn in on Monday, as Nancy mentioned. I'm so excited to join you all for this first meeting. I will caveat that I will unfortunately need to drop at the top of the hour due to a scheduling conflict, but I hope that that's not going to be the norm. I hope to be able to participate actively over the years as an advocate and as a member of other commissions and committees for both the county and the school board. I've always found your work so incredibly helpful and incredibly informative to how we think about children, youth, and families here in Arlington. So I'm just really appreciative to be your liaison, and if all goes well on January 7th, I'll be joining you at your next meeting officially as your liaison. Hopefully nothing changes, but I am happy to be available, and I will put my email in the chat if you would like to get in contact with me before January 1st when I officially transition into APS and have an APS email. But in the meantime, feel free to contact me there. I am always happy to have a chat with any of you, and I'm so excited to be joining you all very soon. I won't take up too much of your agenda because I know that there are important things to talk about, but thank you all so much for inviting me to come today.
Thank you and welcome. And Nancy, really thank you so much for your service over the years and always asking the hard questions and getting us to think and move in different directions. And we really appreciate everything that you've done. Okay, so now we have we have more than 3 guest speakers, but we have 3 topics for guest speakers. So we're going to start with Liane. Liane, I will ask if you just say a little bit about your work and then share. And I don't know if you have if you want to share your screen, or if you want to, I can make you a co-host to do that.
It would be helpful. I actually pulled some things together that I could share on the screen. So yeah, that would be great.
Sure.
And I'll also be dropping some things in the chat in a little bit. Yeah, so I'm Liane Rozzell. As I mentioned, I live here in Arlington in Penrose. I've been living in Arlington since 1998, so 22 years now. And I have had the honor and privilege of working during this year focusing on an initiative we call the Restorative Arlington Initiative, which is all about how do we bring restorative practices to Arlington in our schools and our legal system in our community. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. I'm also going to note that I work for the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and the foundation loaned me to Arlington County for this year, where I've been working out of the county manager's office. And the clock is ticking on my time in this role. So the end of the month will be the end of my time specifically in this role. I'm still in Arlington. I will be doing some volunteer work to help move this work forward. So so just so you know that.
We have a spot for you.
Yeah, you have a spot for me. Well, I'm going to be still doing my volunteer work is going to be the Restorative Arlington work. So so there you go. Let me pull up. I decided to do this on my Acrobat reader here and show you the PDF, because that way the whole screen isn't taken over by PowerPoint. So yeah, so thank you all so much. Oh, let me get to the beginning. Thank you for having me present to you about this. I'm going to run through some highlights of our strategic plan, which is posted in full on the website. And again, I'll drop it in the chat when I'm finished. I want to talk also a little bit about where we're headed and how any of you all can get involved. Before I go much further though, and this is not a slide I intend for people to read, so don't even try. This is on the back of our strategic plan. I really have to acknowledge the dedicated group of about 4 people who live, work, worship, teach, or study in Arlington who were part of building this strategic plan. It's just been incredible working with this amazing group of people, and a few of you are actually on this call or as part of this group. I know Siobhan is there, and I might have missed who all else is there. I know Michael Swisher was also part of our group, and he's been part of this, and Devanshi Patel as well. And then we had 2 Teen Network board members as well. So I'm so happy to see Teen Network board in the house, and members and alum. So starting in April, this group of people created we had 3 working groups, and they started exploring how we can adopt restorative justice practices, as I said, in the schools, legal system, and community. And they spent more than 1,300 person hours over 6 months learning from experts in nearby communities and other parts of the country. And so the strategic plan that I'm going to be talking about and the vision emerged from that process. We also had, for our strategic plan, we had some reviewers who were basically subject matter experts. So it's kind of a peer review process that helped ensure that our plan is really in fidelity with best practices in the restorative justice movement. Our vision for a restorative Arlington is pretty simple: an equitable, empathetic community that honors the dignity and humanity of all people and creates pathways for belonging, accountability, and growth. We're convinced that adopting restorative justice practices will help us achieve this vision. So I want to spend a little time here getting us, all on the same page about restorative justice practices, what they are, and so forth. So the terms restorative justice or restorative practices really refer to an approach and processes that have their origins in Indigenous knowledge, that deepen connections among people through intentionally inclusive practices that cultivate empathy, trust, and mutual respect, and that respond to harm by engaging all affected parties in creative and collaborative processes that enable meaningful accountability through acknowledging and repairing the harm, and processes that support community members in leading conflict in potentially transformative ways, and that advance equity through a framework that is deeply rooted in the understanding that we're all interconnected and we all have value. This is one of the fun things that we made this year, because I think it really helps explain restorative processes to people. Restorative justice practices fall in a continuum from proactive to responsive, from community building circles you see on the left there, to targeted interventions that address harm and conflict and can even address systemic and historic harms. So what Restorative Arlington Initiative is doing is working to build Arlington's capacity to use a range of restorative practices to create a deeply connected community that can more effectively prevent, reduce, and respond to conflict and harms. And I'm going to spend a minute on a couple of what these kinds of practices are to kind of break this out for you. So when we talk about community building circles, we're talking about really the fundamental or basic restorative practice. And really, some of you may have experienced a circle process. They're fairly simple, don't require a ton of training to pull off, and can be used in situations in schools, in workplaces, faith-based organizations, nonprofits, service providers, civic organizations, anywhere where you want to help build community, help increase understanding among people, help people get to know each other better, help people communicate better. These kinds of practices are very useful for that. There's some opportunities that we have had and are building around this. We actually have adapted the circle process, the community building circle process, to online. And we had, over the summer, we had a number of what we were calling V circles, virtual circles. A few of you may have participated in those virtual circles, which were basically opportunities for people to get to know each other using the circle process. One of the beautiful things about circle process is that it invites every single person's voice in. It invites everyone to participate. That, I think, is one of its great strengths and paths to creating equity using those kinds of processes. We are working with one of the partners of Restorative Arlington is the Carter School, the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter School for Peace and Conflict Resolution at George Mason University. They've been outstanding partners, and we're working with them to begin to offer some circle training starting next year. So that's one of the opportunities coming up. Now, shifting to the kind of farther side of this continuum are what we call targeted interventions. And this is what many people often think of when they think of restorative justice, the responses to conflict and harm that are designed to address the needs, especially of the person who's been harmed, if that's the case. So they centered on the harmed party. They also provide a path to accountability. And when I talk about accountability, we're not talking the same as punishment. Accountability has to do with recognizing the impact of your actions, taking responsibility for what has occurred, and expressing remorse, not just with words, but by doing sorry, making amends, guided by the person or persons you've harmed, and then being a person who doesn't commit that harm again. So that's what we mean when we talk about taking accountability. And what happens with a targeted intervention, they go by many names, is bringing together on a totally voluntary basis, always voluntary, the people who are most impacted by the conflict or harm, because we know that those people are in the best position to create a solution that addresses the situation and repairs the harm. And to foster healing and safety, this is an attempt that breaks the cycles of harm and trauma, again, by addressing the needs of the people involved and treating them with dignity and empowering them to decide how their needs are met, and creating that safe space. These processes, one of the reasons the targeted interventions are on the right-hand side is that it takes a lot of training and preparation to make these things happen and experience for facilitators. So we're working to build that capacity here in Arlington for people to facilitate these processes. When these processes are used instead of an exclusionary discipline in school or a legal system process, they work really well and help people avoid the stigma and trauma that come with those other processes. So some applications are for school discipline and conflicts, and also for harms in the community, including crimes. Let me talk a minute about the benefits for Arlington. The equity is something that we are putting front and center as far as the restorative practices. And there are several ways that restorative practices can help bring about equity or help create greater equity. By reducing the disproportionate impact of punishment and criminalization in schools and our legal system, by providing processes that can be used to discuss and take action on issues of bias and power and privilege, and by fostering institutional accountability. It's late, I can't talk. For addressing systemic inequities. And when we talk about that systemic accountability, you might think of some things like the Truth and Reconciliation process that happened in South Africa in the 90s. That's a big time example of that. But here closer to home, in places like North Carolina and Maine, there have been other kinds of processes that help address systemic harms. Then safety, healing, and accountability, as I mentioned in the when we talk about targeted interventions in particular, research confirms that those are effective at reducing reoffending and meeting the needs of people who've been harmed, especially for their healing. And people who've been harmed who take place in face-to-face restorative justice conferences are usually more satisfied with the handling of their cases, and they suffer less from post-traumatic stress syndromes. So it's really kind of powerful how this can work on that. And then people who take accountability through restorative processes are significantly less likely to commit more harm. So that's a big bonus for us. And then, as I mentioned before, these processes help build community, and collaboration can be used in all kinds of settings. For us in Arlington, we believe this is an opportunity to lead. This kind of process has not, in an integrated way, is not being done in very many places. There are places that are using this for schools or for legal system, but looking at it in the way we're doing holistically, not that many. And these are, as I said, very effective tools. So what does this look like in each of these areas? I know you guys are probably dying to know. In the schools in particular, the goal is for schools to be collaborative environments of belonging and safety, that value and empower every person in the school community. So what we've been looking at as our school work with our school working group is what is called restorative justice in education, which is a whole school approach. So when we talk about whole school approach, that means restorative process is used for teaching and for community building, as well as for addressing discipline. So it's not just only the discipline area, but it's throughout the school. It's staff members using restorative processes within their meetings. It's having circle process be available for families and for students to use among themselves, and for things like IEPs, even IEP meetings. So there are many ways that the whole school RJE approach can be effective for schools. One of the pieces that that I think is especially important to note is that the RJE approach is really a lot about increasing belonging. And I was looking at the Your Voice Matters survey, the 2020 results that, I know you all are familiar with that survey, right? And I was struck by the fact that among 6th to 12th graders, only 54% of students said they felt like they belong at their school. And so the whole school RJE approach should be something that can help us move the needle on that kind of thing, especially for people who've often been marginalized. So that's really kind of important. We also have a focus on student leadership in this restorative process. So what's happening with implementation on this is we're starting to form a representative team, and by representative, we're talking about every kind of person in the school community. And we're collaborating with APS, and I saw Dr. Allen on the call, so hope she's still here. We're working with her and other folks to pull this together with George Mason University also as one of our partners. And our thought about the approach here is starting with a few schools, probably using a process that was called resource mapping to see what the readiness is and how restorative practices can support the things that are already happening in the school community, the initiatives that are already there, and with an emphasis on student leadership. So this should not be seen as something that is being done to young people by educators, but something that is a collaborative approach. And so that's a little bit of that. And you'll see, I'm going to send these slides around also. So I'm not going to try to read everything that's on them, but you'll see some of the proposed activities there that we had in our plan. I didn't check to see what time I started, but I'm getting there.
You're good. You've got plenty of time. I posted in the chat box if anybody has any questions, if you want to pop them in there, and then we'll have questions for you in just a few minutes.
Good, cool. All right. So I'm going to switch over now to the legal system piece. And in the legal system context, in implementing restorative justice, our goal is to address harms, limit their ripple effects, prevent them from recurring, and reduce the racial and ethnic disparities that are reflected both in who is harmed and who ends up in the legal system. So our implementation on the legal system right now is focusing on a restorative justice conferencing program for youth and young adults, ages 16 to 24. We've actually secured some funding, which is great, from the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and an additional bit of funding that I can't quite announce yet, plus some county funding. So that will help support the launch of a restorative justice conferencing program for youth and young adults, as I mentioned. And through that program, the plan is that will help the young people not have to go into the legal system, but to have an opportunity, and the people who've been harmed by youth and young adults to have the opportunity to come together, come up with an agreement to as to repairing the harm. And then once that agreement is completed, then they would not have to go into the system. That's basically how that works in a nutshell. We are building an implementation team with representation from every kind of person who's affected. So we're looking for young people, particularly those who've had system engagement, to be part of that team. We're looking for people who've had the experience of being harmed to be part of that team. We also have some system partners who are already part of that. And we will also welcome community members who want to engage at that. So I'm going to have at the end, I'm going to have like, how do you follow up if you or somebody you know wants to get involved in this? We're also going to have some focus groups to gather information from people. And so we may end up talking to y'all about being engaged in some of those focus groups. Then in the community, our vision is really for people who live, work, study, visit, worship in Arlington, to cultivate communities of trust and connection and mutual care, and really to work together to resolve conflict and harm in fair and compassionate ways. To do that, we have some implementation activities going on. We're also forming the implementation team. We're going to restart the virtual circles in 2021, so be on the lookout for that. That's just been a fabulous experience. It sort of exceeded our expectations, and it's been a great way for people to connect, especially during this time when we have the pandemic and we're many of us isolating and staying home. We're also going to be starting to offer training and circle processes, and to be doing some outreach and education activities. One of the things we're going to be doing is also reaching out and finding out where there is interest, what organizations might want to be trained in these processes, who might want to engage. So all of that implementation is at kind of the very beginning stages. It was just November that the county board accepted our strategic plan. And so we're pivoting to that. I'm transitioning, as I mentioned, out at the end of the month. Kimiko Lighty, who has been a volunteer full-time pretty much with us since April, is going to be coordinating a lot of this work. And then a number of our working group members are continuing on into implementation. And so we're going to have some of their active involvement, which I think will be fabulous. For how you can get engaged, I've put a couple of things down here. We have a website on the Arlington site. You can check that out. My best suggestion is, if you want to continue in an ongoing way, is to fill out our interest form. And that will give us your information, because right at this very minute, we're kind of scrambling to do this transition. If you fill out the interest form, we'll capture your information and your specific interests. So that link is up there. Also, sign up for the Restorative Arlington e-newsletter on the Arlington website. There's a link also for learning more about restorative justice, and I'm hoping, I think we're going to have a library webpage. Diane Kresh has said we could have she's going to help us with a resource page that will also help give you ways to learn more about restorative justice yourself. And then I've put my email there, as I said. It's good through the end of the month. So if you want to reach out to me, it's there. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all better and see what questions might be in the chat.
Thank you so very much. We don't have any questions right yet. One of our members, so the Your Voice Matters survey is one that we helped work with the schools and so anyway, but it would be interesting to break down the sense of belonging data from the survey by race, ethnicity. And I believe we can do that. I'm afraid to try to do that right now because I'm having issues with my computer and I don't want to lose you all. But I can add that information into the notes. Are there any questions? I see, Ben, do you want to just go ahead and talk?
Sure, I can do that. Thank you for the presentation, Liane. This is something I'm actually quite interested in. So I have two general questions. The first is essentially about recidivism rates. So you mentioned that those who take accountability have a lower recidivism rate, essentially. And I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on what those who take accountability means. Are there some folks who don't take accountability but still go through the restorative justice process? I can ask both questions now or do it one by one.
You can go ahead and ask the other one. That's fine.
And then the second one is, what does the conflict resolution process look like when victims would prefer not to participate? And thank you again.
Sure, yeah. So let me answer both of those. And I was, when I said those who take accountability, I was just really kind of meaning people who go through the process and complete the process. So as I might have mentioned, but I want to tease this out a little bit because I think it might help everybody understand. When you have a situation of harm and you're bringing together a restorative process, there's a preparation process that happens for everybody who's involved. Sometimes it can be extensive. And then a conference typically where an agreement is made about how the harm is repaired. But even before the agreement is made, there's time that's spent where the person who's been harmed talks about the impact of that harm on them and so forth. The person who was responsible for the harm may answer their questions, because that's often a thing that happens. And people have questions, why me? What were you thinking? All those kinds of things. And then, various aspects of these things are teased out. They talk about what are the needs that arise, and then they come to an agreement about what will it take to repair the harm or to make amends and that sort of thing. And so those agreements, then the person responsible is usually the one who's working on the whole agreement. And once they complete that, then the process is considered complete. So in almost every study that I've seen, and I hesitate only because I almost never want to say all, but I don't think I've seen a study that's comparing people who go through a standard court process versus people who go through and complete a restorative process. There's a dramatic difference in reoffending or recidivism. Those are measured in various different ways in different places, but it shows a significant impact. So that's what that means. And then, what does it look like if people are harmed, victims, survivors? We try to use people who are harmed so that we're not locking them into the one label. don't want to participate, and that can happen. And that's, as I said, it's always voluntary. It depends on how the program is set up. Many programs can use a surrogate victim. And that is someone who suffered a similar harm, who can stand in for the harmed person. And how this happens can also vary depending on what the harmed person prefers. They may not want to be face-to-face with the person who harmed them, but they may want to record a video, send a support person. And when we talk about these circles, we're not just talking about the two people, if there are two people, we're talking about them having supporters, and there may be community representatives there. There may be others who have been affected, who are part of this conferencing process. But it may be that the person who's harmed wants to write a letter. It may be that they want no involvement, and if the program is set up to use a surrogate, then a surrogate could be brought in, and those have been shown to be effective as well. So that's a little bit about how that can work.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for the terminology, people who are armed. I appreciate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like I don't see any other questions, and I know the teens are going to talk, and some of the teens participated, so maybe there'll be a little bit in that. Are there any other? I'm looking around the room to see if there's anybody who's getting ready to say, my teacher, wait time. Thank you so much, Liane, and I look forward to seeing the slides because my computer is acting up, so I wasn't able to see them, but if you send them to me, I'll also be able to share them, and we have this recording for those of you who may have joined a little bit late. You'll be able to see it in the recording.
Yeah, I'm going to drop everything in the chat now.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Ava, I am turning it over to you to introduce the teens. Do you need me to make you a co-host?
No, that's okay. We don't have any PowerPoints, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, hi everyone. My name is Ava, and I'm one of the overall co-chairs of Teen Network Board, which I'm sure you guys know is a county commission that works to promote teen voice in Arlington. And my other co-chair, Yasmina Mansour, she's on Restorative Justice. She couldn't be here today, but she was excited for this meeting. And I want to start off by introducing our subcommittees. We have 5 of them, and they'll all be doing their own individual presentations on what they've been up to this year. And I'll also be presenting for 2 committees that weren't able to make it today. But our committees are composed of VICE, Volunteering, Internships, Community Service, and Employment. And then we have Communications, which works with our social media and outreach. And then we also have DAP, which is Drug and Alcohol Prevention. And then we have HRT, which is a new subcommittee this year that focuses on healthy relationships and teen dating violence awareness. And then we have peer-to-peer, which works with anti-bullying, mental health, and relationships between peers and schools. So some of the exciting things that we've been doing this year that aren't affiliated with a particular committee include, we did a PSA earlier this year about COVID and mental health and strategies to cope with mental health struggles during the pandemic, which was very exciting. And me and Yasmina presented that. So that was super cool. And then also all of our webinars are on the Arlington Teens website. And then Yasmina also worked with the courts to, and she was trained to be a Narcan trainer. Yes, she was trained to be able to train people in Narcan. And Narcan is an overdose medication that stops an overdose on opioids, for those of you that don't know. And she was able to give a Narcan presentation during one of their meetings, which is exciting. And then she also gave 2 to the Teen Network Board. which was awesome that we have some people trained in our can now. And then we also, yeah, I think that's our like non-committee affiliated projects. But I also wanted to quickly speak for Vice and DAP who weren't able to make it today. But I just want to go over their like what they've been up to this year. So this is Vice, and I'm reading the email they sent us. They say hello and that they're sorry they couldn't make it,
Hey,
but yeah.
I'm here if you want me to go. I can go for a
Oh,
bite.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was able to make it actually. So my name is Abel, like I said before. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Vice Committee alongside Kate Allen, and she wasn't able to make it tonight. So so first off, we're like focused on our committee is mainly focused on providing volunteer internships, community service, and employment opportunities to different teams in Arlington. So so this like starting off the year, it's been pretty good. We've been able to like have different meetings throughout the year and plan different activities in like a virtual format. So we've had like casual introductions to start off the meetings and stuff, and interact with each other through this virtual platform. But it's been hard, but we've still tried to like adjust to it and think of new innovative ways of kind of doing our regular activities within our platform that we're doing it our meetings on now. Regarding like the activities we've done so far this year, we did our traditional beat activity, which is businesses employing Arlington teens. Traditionally, it would just be where we invited different Arlington businesses to our like job fair, and different teams would be able to interact with them and see if they had any job opportunities for the teens that present at the fair. But this year, since it was COVID, we just went around and provided our official TNB certificate for their role in employment of local Arlington teens. And more recently, we were able to do our Martha's Table event through a virtual format. So we were all like put on gloves and make sure we follow safety protocols to make sandwiches in a virtual format. And we all went around and picked up the sandwiches and delivered it to Martha's Table and to like help like kids in DC. So moving on to the like 2021 year, we have like plans to host our TNB volunteer fair, and we're looking to like brainstorm and look at different opportunities or different activities that we can implement for our community to continue doing its like main mission of providing like all these different opportunities to teens. All right, thank you. So we are very excited for the new year and hope to be able to like conduct more meetings to interact with this this like joint committee. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Abel. Yeah, so that was one of our committees, Vice. And then I want to open it up to peer-to-peer if you guys want to present what you've been up to this year.
Yeah, hello. Once again, my name is Luke Hadeen. I am currently one of the co-chairs of Peer-to-Peer. As Ava mentioned, we focused on suicide prevention, anti-bullying, and just healthy relationships in general. Our committee has always been the committee that's physically involved. We were usually kind of the doers, and we were always out in the high schools just handing out items, handing out awareness pamphlets about almost any issue you can imagine. And this pandemic has impacted us pretty uniquely compared to other committees. But to start off, what we did this year in September, we organized a Suicide Prevention Month PSA, and that was distributed to all the high schools and anyone else who wanted to share that. And then in October, we decided to put out another PSA, but this is again for Coming Out Day. So what we originally decided to do is we wanted to highlight the difficulties and the unknown realities of coming out as an LGBTQ individual. And this has not received a lot of press recently, just because a lot of these individuals are scared to present themselves as they truly are. And we wanted to highlight that and provide people who didn't know as much about the process on some insights. And then throughout November, we did an anti-bullying survey. So we partnered with, or we took borrowed resources from the Tyler Clementi Foundation, which after the death of said Tyler Clementi, he sadly took his life away to bullying because of his sexuality. And we wanted to create a survey that highlighted the organization and what anti-bullying really means. And as a reward, we raffled away, actually, excuse me, for each survey, for each time you filled out the survey, you'd be entered into a raffle for some gift cards. And then throughout December, we've done actually 3 activities. We've actually created college care packages for our previous alumni. We do this every year just to make sure that our previous alumni are still within the community, and we are hosting still a holiday movie. However, when we're going to readjust to the pandemic and hand out pre-made bags to families this Saturday. So if you know anyone who's pretty young who would like a bag, let them know. I will share all that information with you guys if you'd like. And then we also are finalizing our foster home handouts. So we realize that the pandemic impacted foster home children greatly, just because, one, they don't have any biological family, or it's very unlikely that they do. So the resources are going to be pretty scarce for them, just mentally and, in terms of interaction. So we partnered with the foster home organizations within the county and beyond to sponsor 7 foster home individuals with a pre-made box that we will just send to them. And what we're looking for in 2021 is we're looking forward to hosting College of Mythbusters. This is already a previous program built off another previous program that DAP hosts, which is Mythbusters, just discerning what the true realities of high school are, but we're doing the college version. So we're going to have college individuals come and speak with upperclassmen. And then lastly, a new idea that we just created was Project Peace, and they're sponsoring host rooms, and we decided that we would talk about certain topics. This ranges from racial inequity to body positivity, disability awareness, and college preparedness. But we really look forward to a future where we can better interact in 2021 with our teen constituents. But apart from that, on behalf of Peer-to-Peer, I want to thank everyone who decided to show up today and listened in. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lukeman. That was great. Who's next? Communications. Do you mind presenting?
Okay, so hello, my name is Peyton Fern. I'm a senior at Washington Liberty High School, and I'm one of the co-chairs of communications along with Lizzie Coomans. And basically what we do as a whole, we like to consider ourselves the backbone of TNB, because a lot of things would not be possible for all of the committees if it weren't for the work that me and Lizzie and our wonderful committee do. So usually the 2 main things that we do, I am more in the wheelhouse of keeping up with the social media, especially our Instagram and Facebook. If you guys want to give that a follow, it's Arlington_TNB on Instagram. And basically what we've been doing in that department is we actually gave the account a lot of just revamping, just to make it look more professional, just to show that even though we are teenagers, we still work really hard on all of these projects and we want to share them with the world. So since I'd say approximately last May is when we really started working on the Instagram again, just to make help with outreach as well. So a big thing that we've done is we've made posts throughout the summer, offering up volunteer opportunities to the general public, especially if you are a member of the Arlington Teen Network Board. You do need to get 5 to 7 volunteer hours per semester, excuse me. So we love to offer several different opportunities for that. Like Lukeman said, with the Tyler Clementi project, collaborating with them and doing the survey, we actually made an Instagram post about that. So we posted it just to help get outreach for people to someday fill it out sometime. Sorry, I'm just looking through the Instagram right now just to catch myself up. So I apologize if I keep looking down. And also with HRT, we'll most likely discuss
is they just did a doorways drive. Of course, I'll let Trini get more into that, but we made a post about that to help reach out to the general community, to help get them involved. And also with peer-to-peer, we also, just yesterday, actually, we made a post for the holiday movie goodie bags with a link to a Sign Up Genius to help with COVID regulations, just to make everything safe. And another big thing that we've also organized is last year, of course, the pandemic happened very, very fast, especially to our class of 2020. How you'd think that life would be normal and we'd just go back to school and life would be okay. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So us at the TNB wanted to make senior appreciation posts for each individual senior. So we sent out a Google form that they could fill out, just saying what school they were going to, what they plan on majoring in, and their favorite memory of TNB. So most of our Instagram feed is made up of our wonderful seniors from last year. And yeah, another important thing that we did is, of course, with our new superintendent, we wanted to spread the word about the town hall where you can ask questions. And we also celebrate multiple holidays such as Juneteenth, and of course, several other events like that. And we also do story posts, which is something on Instagram where you can just put on your profile for around 24 hours, but you can also highlight it as well. So we have multiple highlights on our Instagram page as well, ranging from COVID resources from the start of the pandemic that you could probably still take a part in. So feel free to look at that, right, to mental health resources, peer-to-peer. I believe it was one of these past months, September, was Suicide Prevention Month. So every week we made story posts to share different suicide prevention quotes from several individuals. And then we also have different highlights, just ranging from different seasons, just if you want to see the events that we have taken part of in the past. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook would have to be the main social medias that we use. But we also just made a new link tree on our Instagram page. So Linktree, if you guys are not familiar with that, is just a software that you can use. It's called Linktree because you use one link, which can help send you to multiple other links that you like to visit. So on that link, it goes to our TNB page, which the wonderful Sally has made as well. She is our adult ally at TNB. And we also have our different medias, I think our Twitter and our YouTube page as well. So if you guys want to go check that out, that would be in our bio. And of course, if you ever want to spread the news about different events happening in Arlington that can help get the Teen Network Board and the Teen Network Board community involved, please feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to talk to you guys about that. And yeah, that's pretty much my wheelhouse when it comes to social media and all that fun stuff. But Lizzie is more into definitely the more logistical side. So Lizzie, if you want to get more into that, feel free. And of course, thank you guys so much for this opportunity. Again, my name is Peyton Fern, and it was lovely meeting all of you.
And if you can see my screen, here's their Instagram, and it is awesome to follow what you guys are doing. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Kim, and thank you so much, Peyton. So hi, everyone. I'm Lizzie, as I said before, and I also am one of the co-chairs of the Communications Committee. But as Peyton said, I work a lot more with the logistics side. So that means keeping track of attendance at every meeting, tracking everyone's volunteer hours. As Peyton said, members are required to have 5 to 7 hours of Teen Network Board volunteering per semester. And that also comes with internal events such as parties. For example, I know a few of you were there yesterday at our end of year party, which was super exciting and really, it was really great to see everyone's faces. We also coordinated that beginning of the year party, the kickoff party, to just welcome in all of our new members, and as well our end of year party back in June to celebrate the year and try to reunite and bring everyone back together despite the COVID circumstances. Also, I have been working with a new social media that we've been moving towards, which is TikTok, which is definitely a great way to have some more outreach to teens, not just in Arlington, but across the country. And through that resource, we're hoping to spread resources on mental health, COVID safety, drug and alcohol prevention, community service ideas, things like that, just to really expand our reach, not just in Arlington, but for teens across the country, which is a really exciting opportunity that we're going to have moving forward. And the last thing I was just thinking about talking about is we fostered a really incredible discussion on school resource officers within Teen Network Board. We created a forum for our members to fill out to really understand what the youth's stance was on the school resource officer debate. So we had a forum and we got to hear back from a bunch of teens in the Teen Network Board, which is really exciting. I think that's pretty much everything. So again, thank you guys so much for this opportunity to be here tonight. It's really great to see everyone's faces.
So I have a question that I just popped in. The SRO thing, that would be fascinating. Have you shared that with the schools or with the SROs?
We ended up not reaching a full conclusion. I think it was just a really incredible discussion that we all had, and it really opened our minds. A lot of people thought that resource officers were very important for the safety of students, whereas others really were looking at the racial equity point of view and realizing the racial inequities that were often present with school resource officers. Not to come out with a full stance on that.
Great conversation.
Yeah, and while we didn't make a conclusion as a organization, we do have a few Teen Network Board members in the new SRO workshop to be part of the youth advocacy group. So that's also really exciting. Yeah, but thank you a lot, Communications. That was great. And the next group, sorry, I'm blanking. Oh, HRT.
Hi. Okay, so my name is Trini. I am a junior at Thomas Jefferson in Fairfax, and I'm one of the co-chairs for HRT with my friend Lily, who's the other co-chair. So we are the Healthy Relationships Task Force of the Teen Network Board, and so we work with each other and our adult allies to plan initiatives that aid the community on topics such as like dating violence, sexual assault awareness, and consent. So we've been working on like a monthly podcast called Dear HRT, where we answer submitted questions from high schoolers about safe sexual habits and relationships. And we're also planning other events in order to like educate our community on these things and raise awareness. So we also held a successful supplies drive with Doorways, which is a group that focuses on aiding and providing support for sexual violence survivors. So it all really like worked towards our goal. We also are planning to have a panel discussion with college students about campus sexual violence, and all of the HRT members are required to complete trainings about sexual harassment in schools and the rights that students have. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
So I see that Nancy Van Doren had her hand up. Maybe she doesn't have it up anymore. Nancy, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make a comment because I've been the liaison from the school board to the APS SRO work group, which just kicked off last week. And I'm really glad that the Teen Network Board is connected to the student voice on that. The group accepted every student who applied to that and created a separate student subgroup. So I encourage members of the Teen Network Board to continue to be connected to that group. But one thing that I wanted to point out is that it's going to be very important for us going forward to move away from asking what the decision is in a bifurcated conversation, because the conversation is, what is the relationship between Arlington County Police and Arlington Public Schools and our children? That's the conversation. And there are lots of shades and lots of different aspects to that. So I want to encourage everybody as we engage in this conversation over the next 6 months to think about what should that relationship be like? What role should the police play with our children? What are the parameters around that? And what should the school's role be? And also really understand how the laws have changed in relationship to what is considered criminal behavior with students. So I want to point that out, because every time I hear people talk about, well, what was your conclusion? Are you for them or against them? I really encourage us to move away from that, because we really have to work together and figure out what is the best and most productive relationship. And I'm sure, knowing that we've heard from some of the students, that that's exactly the kind of conversation that was had over time with the kids. So I don't know about what happened in their Teen Network Board conversation, but I have listened to that in conversation among the students. And I wanted to just point that out because at some point, maybe this group in the future would like to have that conversation later. But the SRO group is working, and I believe that there are people from the partnership who are on that group, or at least there's some overlap. I know they work very hard to have representation from different groups. Thanks. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thanks. Sorry, Trini, didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have more?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Ava?
Yeah, thank you for that point of view. We'll definitely take that into consideration. So those are all of the committees that are here, and I'm just going to present quickly for DAP, Drug and Alcohol Prevention, who wasn't able to make it tonight. So some of the events that they've been putting on, some things that they've been up to, is that they've implemented a new program called You've Got a Friend, and it's an initiative with the purpose to create a safe space for teens who have been impacted by a friend or family member's substance abuse problems, and it is in the works and planning to be launched in 2021. So that's exciting for DAP. And then they also started planning a new event called Escaping Vaping, which is a project aimed to spread awareness of the dangers of vapes and e-cigarettes. So that's also in the process of happening. And then Red Ribbon Week, which is an annual event that usually happens every year in schools and high schools. They have tried to face the COVID challenges and work around the physical barriers and the safety regulations that have been put in place to prevent any COVID transmission. And so they decided to make an informational video explaining the origins of Red Ribbon Week, and also to bring to light the increase of drug and alcohol use during the pandemic, as well as providing some resources to teens struggling with substance abuse. So they've also been up to a lot. And I'd also like to add on to what Lukeman said during his presentation about peer-to-peer. Something really exciting that the TNB has in works right now is the Tnb Junior Program, which we are working to implement right now. And what that is almost an extension of Teen Network Board into the middle schools for 7th and 8th graders. And we want to help expose the next generation of Teen Network Board members to leadership, advocacy, community service, and kind of get the younger kids starting to get involved in me and showing them what we do and trying to involve them and get their perspectives so that they get a sense for the community work that we do, and also to hopefully get some future members from the middle schools here as well. So yeah, that is what Teen Network Board has been up to this year. It's all very exciting, and overall our transition between in-person meetings to virtual it's been a relatively easy transition. We have done our very best to work around the COVID regulations to make things virtual and make all of our events safe. So yeah, we're really excited for all of our events that are coming up and that we've been planning. And yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Ava, and everybody on the call. Are there any questions or anything? We have quite a few comments of great presentation, exciting work. Thank you so much. But are there any questions that we want to? John is clapping. I've yet to be able to figure out how to do that emoji, so nice job. And same with Trini. All right, thank you. And thank you to Siobhan for always being there and supporting the teens. And it's always been a pleasure to be able to work with you all in whatever way we can and support you. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Kim. And we just want to say I've got the best gig going. It's wonderful working with these kids. They're fantastic.
All right, we will move on to hearing from Bridget and some folks from APS. So at a meeting last week, or maybe it was even earlier this week, no, it must have been last week, we had a couple of questions that we wanted to ask for the school system about mental health and about evaluating kids in this time of COVID. And Bridget was very kind enough to get back to me, and we have some time. And so I was hoping that she would be able to answer some questions, present some of the information that we asked, and then hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A. But we've got some great information. And so thank you so much, Bridget, for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Sure, it's my pleasure. I appreciate the interest in the work that we're doing on the school side and the support that we always receive from the partnership.
Do you want me to share something and I'll make you a co-host?
Actually, I didn't prepare a presentation, but I do have responses to the questions.
Okay, and I'll share that with everybody at some point.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you how you wanted to work through this. Do you want me to share the responses to the questions orally or field questions, or how would you like to move forward?
Yeah, just maybe talk a little bit about the questions and the answers, and then folks can pop in questions and I will call on folks, or I'll try to look for everybody's hands.
Okay, yep, that's great. So, and I want to thank Laura Newton's help and support with this as well, and I'm glad that she's here. So she can certainly pop in if she wants to add anything as well. So one of the questions was, how are students' mental health being monitored while they're learning from home? And our mental health teams, which include our school psychologists, our social workers, our school counselors, and our substance abuse counselors at each school, collaborate with teachers and staff to identify and collect data on students' needs. And then they use that information that they've collected to develop targeted interventions. And these are meant to support mental health and social emotional needs of students. So it could be focused on executive functioning, it could be focused on comfort kits, or other supports that students are exhibiting. So I think it's important that folks are aware that these, our psychologists, our social workers, our counselors, our substance abuse counselors work as a team to really help identify students' needs and then be very targeted in their responses. From a secondary perspective, our schools have conducted surveys to identify student needs and collect feedback. And they do that during the regularly scheduled advisory times, and that's new this year. Our high school principals and counseling departments were really proactive in recognizing that our kids more than ever would need during this distance learning time adult contact in the building. A lot of kids find their counselor to be an adult contact, or their teacher or a coach. And this is somebody that they know that they can trust and can sort of go to if things are tough. But our high school administrators and teachers were really smart in sort of creating an infrastructure that allows for a teacher advisory period. So we purposely tried to keep these teacher advisory period groups small, so about 6 to 12 kids, and that allows our the adult who is the advisor to be nimble and to be responsive to the students in their advisory period when they have issues. So I was talking about how they've conducted these surveys and then they act on the feedback, and the most recent survey was just this Monday, so it's happening regularly. And teachers on these surveys ask kind of what was good this week, or what was a challenge, and what are some concerns that you might have. Sometimes counselors, so our teacher advisors will reach out to the kids, they'll involve the counselors, we'll also have parents join if it's warranted. So really trying to create sort of wraparound responses for our students at that point.
There's a
Oh,
question.
you want to pause?
Yeah, there's a question
Sure.
about in-person mental health services. Sorry, Kateri, do you want to say anything more about that?
Sure. I wasn't quite sure. The person was like very adamantly wanting in-person services. Apparently the calls and I guess whatever virtual stuff is going on right now is just like not been receiving well or is not regular. And so I was wondering, I don't know if that was schools specifically or all county, but I was just wondering if that was something that we had like a timeline on, or if it's just like until everybody's vaccinated. Or...
Right. So I will say, I'm going to try to answer your question. May not sound like I'm getting there. I will say that our schools, our secondary schools, really our high schools, because after the winter break, this will be also true for our middle schools, have created what we call workspace programs. And it's focused on kids who either have connectivity issues or have challenges sort of staying engaged with distance learning. And the idea is that kids can kind of sign up or be directed to come in by their teachers, particularly if their grades are falling. And they can work in a quiet space that is socially distanced and has all this sort of the safety mitigations. And I bring that up because I do know there's been some discussion about that's a real academic intervention, but that if there are students who have some social emotional needs where they might benefit from coming in to see a counselor or to interact in a small group of students, all socially distanced, using those mitigation factors, that's something that we're looking into.
Are counselors there? My understanding was that they were being monitored by like bus driver, extended day employee type people.
We do have some teachers in the building. Now I want to emphasize that these are not, these workspace programs are not in-person instruction. So those teachers are there to help sort of monitor. Sometimes they're also there because they're accessing their classroom. Sometimes counselors have come in and to help monitor as well. So if the question is, are counselors available for one-on-one sort of sessions, the answer is no at this point. But I am saying that we recognize that there are a lot of kids are really feeling disconnected, and some kids are sort of in a state of despair. And so we're trying to be creative in these outreach. And so looking at how can we model some outreach to students based on these workspace programs. I will also say that next month, Dr. Duran in his monitoring report, so that'll be on the 7th, we'll be identifying potential dates when we'll be bringing students back in as well. I'm sorry, Kim.
That's okay. There's something called CR2. Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about that as an in-person option?
Sure. So CR2 is a regional crisis intervention program, and it's available to all Arlington County residents, in addition to all youth in the region. And they recently expanded their services to go through age 21. So that's a much wider range than they were serving before. And they are providing in-person services, and they've been providing in-person crisis support throughout the pandemic. They are very underutilized right now. So they have a lot of capacity for youth that are incurring mental health challenges and mental health crises. In addition, in children's behavioral health here at DHS, we are not yet providing in-person services. We are providing virtual services, and we recently did a survey for all of our child and family services that includes more than just children's behavioral health. And for the most part, we've been able to reach youth, reach families, and have gotten a pretty good response given the pandemic.
If I may jump in, I don't want to give the impression that counselors or social workers or school psychologists are not available. They are available. So when I'm trying to follow the conversation here, the programs that have been the workspaces, for example, at Wakefield, students are able to sign in the day before if they're having connectivity issues. And so the students, can decide whether to go there or not. And the idea is that they might need a space to work in because their home environment does not allow them to have privacy or to have a space to sit down into. So there's different reasons why the students might decide to come into the school. If a student needs to talk to somebody, the counselors are always available. They know each counselor has a Canvas course or a Canvas where the student can let them know that they need to talk to them, and they're available to talk to me virtually. Also, when we, through these surveys, we find out that there's special needs or certain needs for students, they have been holding small groups. So, they agree on a time and they meet and they can talk about that. Also, our staff have been holding individual counseling sessions. So because, we continue to provide services, but remember, we use a multi-tier system of support. So the first one is the lessons that everybody gets. Now, those lessons are they're supposed to be preventive, right? We talk about and give the people an opportunity to identify feelings, identify ways of, skills that they can be modeled and reinforced. Those are basic skills. So they don't apply to everybody. Some students may feel like, why are we talking about this? But at some level, we have to meet the needs of all students. If the need of the student rises a little bit higher and they need to talk to somebody or they need additional help, that's when we get with the targeted interventions. But these are confidential, and it may be that students are receiving services and other people are not aware that they are, because we are not going to tell, when somebody's receiving services in order to, for their privacy. And when, there's a need that needs to be referred to outside agencies, we do refer out and we provide those, services and information. Before the Thanksgiving break, I make sure to send out the flyer that Jamie provided with all the services that were available in case of an emergency during the break, who they could call, CR2, same day access. So we are constantly providing information and being available. We want people to know that we're here. If you need services, if you know of somebody that needs services, please let us know. One of the issues that we have tried to address is the trusted adult. When we do the surveys and ask the students whether or not they know about our services, the majority of students say that they know. I'm not saying everybody says that they know, but if they know that the services are available, they need to let us know that they need those services. And sometimes students don't feel comfortable making the first move. If you have a friend, I'm talking to the teen group, if you know of someone that needs assistance, please talk to them, ask them to approach their counselor, their social worker, or the school psychologist. We're here to help you. We are not denying any services. We are not providing less services than in person. Because of COVID, of course, we do, we provide the services virtually, but we are as active as ever. So we just need to know, we need to be notified of what are the needs so that we can meet those needs.
Thank you. There was a question here, and I'm not sure if it's Laura or if Bridget would be able to answer it, but it's about the student-developed curriculum on mental health resources. Has that been implemented? And if not, the Youth Mental Health and Wellness Committee would be interested in seeing that data. Are you familiar with that?
I'm going to defer to Laura on this one.
When you say mental health curriculum, what exactly are you referring to? Is there a name to the program?
Kim, do you want to talk more about that?
I only know about this because Nancy Van Dorn mentioned it at the school board meeting. I believe the student involved was Perry. I forgot his last name, but he was, I think, a member of the Teen Network board and attended some of our committee meetings. I understood that he was at Yorktown. He has graduated now, but it was presented to the school as something that could be put on Canvas. There were some technical issues, I think, discussed at the school board meeting. So just trying to find out what happened to that.
Well, I know that, and I think even Alicia Guajardo is here. I don't know exactly what they're referring to, but I'm assuming it's maybe sources of strength. We have made an effort to.
Laura, I'm going to stop you because that's not what it is.
Oh,
You
I'm
can
sorry.
you
Okay.
can address that, but I think Bridget Loft needs to address this. It was specifically addressed to her, and I don't know why. I don't know what has happened with this, but Perry Gibbs and several other students put together a teen-to-teen presentation on when it is that you might want to reach out for services and where to go. It was a teen-to-teen presentation. And I understand the last thing I heard about it was at a board meeting where we were told it was going to cost some vast amount of money to put it on Canvas. And I don't know what's happened with it, but I think when I hear a conversation in which we lecture students about how they have to reach out to us when they're coming to us, telling us that they're having difficulty figuring out how to do that, I think we need to hear them say that they perhaps need to hear from each other. And this was an attempt to do that. So perhaps Bridget can address this because we were in the board meeting together where this was brought up, the conversation that Kim is addressing.
Yeah, I apologize. Thanks for reminding me, Nancy. That was very early in my tenure. And I came in sort of in the middle of this. And so my understanding was that the cost to get this program up and running was not something that we were able to address at that time. But it's certainly something that, you know, we're in a budget season now. We can certainly look at it and I can have a better answer for you. I just need to go back and do some more research on that.
I would love it if you all, I'm rotating off the board. I've been an advocate for doing this and it's been frustrating for me not to see it happen because I think kids talking to kids is very important. And as I've been involved in the mental health and disability community and in the meetings with the kids, I know that they listen to each other. So I wanted to point that out and encourage you all, because I will not be in a pace to continue to push this, that you push this with our staff. Okay, thanks.
There was a question about, are all these support systems voluntary? Does a teacher or a parent have to refer? Kateri, did I get that question close to being right? Yes, so I think CR2 can be self-referred as well as referred by a professional, correct, Jamie?
Yes, but they do need parent consent.
Got you.
And for children's behavioral health, there can be self-referrals. Kids can refer themselves.
Okay. Looks like that's it for those round of questions. Bridget, if you want to continue. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. So one of the questions was, how do parents know about the supports and resources that are available to them? And so our student services staff, our psychologists, our social workers, our counselors have office hours for staff and parents to consult with them, and the links to request as an appointment are embedded either in the counselor's email signature blocks and on the school websites. Our Parent Resource Center and school websites provide lists of supports that are available to parents. We can also say that we have several Parent Academy videos that focus on, one is entitled Supporting Social Emotional Learning at Home and Social Emotional Learning for Parents. Our Parent Academies are a series of videos that we really launched this year to give tools to parents as we navigate this distance learning world. And so that if you go to the APS website and just type in Parent Academy, it'll take you right to the webpage. It's really a rich resource. So we also, our Canvas pages have information regarding supports for students and families. And these include both mental health and food resources. And our counselors, parents who call in to request support are really guided through the process of coordinating support by school staff. So it's meant to be as transparent as possible. But I think the best first stop is to contact your child's counselor and they can kind of point you in the right direction, or to visit the Parent Academy webpage. I'll pause, Kim. Are there other questions?
Yeah, yes, actually, Anne O'Brien, I'm just going to call on you. This is back to the elementary mental health. Do you want to talk a little bit about your question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, some of these, this mechanism of soliciting feedback from high school students sounds great. I'm curious how that kind of feedback is being sought from elementary age kids, because I know there's growing disconnection and despair among that population as well. And just really ensuring that they aren't lost in this conversation about mental health needs. And we really think of addressing their needs at this point as kind of a preventative measure to stop them from spiraling as they get older. So yes.
And then Laura, if you want to tag on, certainly we've got counselors at each of our elementary schools who are our first point of contact. We have our elementary students receive social emotional learning lessons each week to kind of provide that tier 1 foundation. But Laura, do you want to talk a little bit more about supports that are available to our elementary kids?
Yeah, I think that elementary counselors are great, and they have a really good way of relating to the students. I think that what we're finding out in talking to them is the level of anxiety and stress, has increased, in the sense, the sense of grief and loss, of not being able to come back to school and seeing their friends, and being able to just play and be kids, is something that they're missing. So the elementary counselors are targeting those areas when they see a need in particular in that area. And also, like I said, they're creating small groups where they can meet with the students and talk about those needs.
So Michelle shared, and it's true, because I look at the PRC, Parent Resource Center, offers some great emails and great support. So that's just a kudos to Kathleen Donovan and Kelly Mountain, who I believe they're the ones who put that out. But it's a really great resource. And if folks don't have that, maybe when I get one, I can forward it and you guys can all subscribe to it on your own.
And I think that, I think that, Bridget was going to refer about the different resources. We have created a lot of videos for parents on Parent Academy, and Student Services have created a lot of them, understanding SEL and stress and, and then additional topics. So if you're not familiar with the Parent Academy resources, I would advise you to, go to their website. There's several videos and additional resources that might be helpful.
I'll find the link and put it in there. Okay, back to you, Bridget.
Okay. And then I guess one of the questions was, is there consistency sort of across schools and how we provide these supports? So as we've said, I think that the presence of counselors, K-12 is a consistent support that's provided. Group counseling, individual and group check-ins are something that's happening K-12. Our counselors holding daily office hours to meet with students and also to check in with families. The SEL lessons is really sort of K-8, and these lessons at the elementary level are taught by teachers and counselors. And at the middle level, the delivery of SEL videos that have some interactive parts to them. And then at our high school level, our sources of strength is really our sort of delivery of the social emotional piece. And that really leverages influence that peers have on one another as well. And then really the regular mental health collaboration and consultation with their site-based mental health teams to really identify those targeted interventions. So those I would say are some examples of the consistent support across schools. You want me to pause, Kim, or?
I don't see any other questions right now. I'm looking to see if I see any hands up. I think you're good to go.
Okay. The last question that was posed are what are the expectations of schools on evaluating students? And it was really more focused on grades, right? So at the secondary level, our teachers are really trying to be mindful regarding grading. Employing practices like giving kids additional time to complete their work. And we're really guiding teachers to be focusing on power standards. So one way to kind of describe power standards, you've got those standards that where you live that are essential. And then you have those standards that you might drive by and wave at. And then there's standards that you might just drive on by. And in a normal time, when we have the ability to make those interpersonal connections, we absolutely focus on the essential power standards, the power standards where you live. And then we may be looking at power standards that you might wave at. I think our teachers are trying to be very conscious of not trying to throw everything at the wall and make sure it sticks, but to really focus on those essential standards that kids need to know. And so they make those instructional choices so that, you know, we're also, it's challenging to be on a screen and fully interactive for extended periods of time. So where we can look at ways to ease that experience, I think our teachers are trying to do that. So I think also, you know, when a teacher or a counselor identifies a concern, they work with one another and the kid to identify grading practices that support mastery of content. And so, for example, I'll use as an example, you know, if 20 math problems are assigned, but the kid shows they really get the concept in 5, then we need to go with 5 and be satisfied that the kid has demonstrated mastery of content. So that's one example. For elementary, we have 11 schools that are engaged in standards-based grading, and they use a common criteria to identify areas of need. And then we've got 11 schools that are engaged in traditional grading, and they use support from their coaches in their building to provide consistency in grading. The 2 schools that are sort of outliers is the Montessori Public School and Campbell, and they both use grading systems that are similar to the standards-based grading. So there's a follow-up, Kim, but I'll pause to see if there are any questions in the chat or hands raised.
Judy had posted something in the chat, but I think you're getting to it. Is that right, Judy? During the meeting, there were concerns around students' grades, sadness, anxiety, etc. Many students weren't expecting failing grades. Judy, do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, we had quite a discussion about this. Students who in the past may have been used to getting particular level of grades, and then suddenly the grades came and they were surprised to be getting D's or E's, or maybe they're an A student and they had C's. And I'm just wondering, is someone watching that, like their counselor, to say, wow, this is going to be tough on this student, and I better, you know, get on the I don't know, talk with them and with their parents and give them a heads up, because this hit kids hard. It hit them very hard. So
absolutely. So, and in fact, I will say at tomorrow's Dr. Duran's monitoring report tomorrow, we'll be sharing more information about those first quarter grades, because we did see an increase in E's and D's in several sort of subgroups of students. And we'll also be sharing the follow-up that occurred. But I think you make a good point, Judy, that There were kids in first quarter who sort of hold themselves to a standard, and the challenges of distance learning, the requirement to, sort of stay focused on the screen to navigate the variety of resources that they have might have resulted in lower grades than they might have expected. And that's where it's really good that our counselors loop with our kids at the secondary level. So in middle school and in high school, when you're assigned a counselor, they follow you through your progression of grades, grade levels, so that one of the reasons for that is so that they get to know their kids on their caseloads and who's holding themselves to an impossible standard, who might be really thrown by a new experience and can provide those targeted interventions. So yes, absolutely. I feel confident in saying that counselors have been following up with their kids who might have been impacted by getting a lower grade.
Before, did the kids know before they got those grades? Were they notified or their parents?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is that we have midterm progress reports. And so if the child's grade was falling at that point, then teachers are expected to follow up with the parents if the child's grade had fallen 2 or more grade levels. So let's say we have an A student who now at midterm is carrying a C, or a C student who's now carrying an E. They are expected to be following up with the parents, and not just at midterm. As we're moving through the grading period, there's an expectation that we're looping parents in as well. And of course, I think there's a lot of conversations between teachers and students about grades. So it goes without saying that students should be notified of if their grades are dropping as well.
So we have 2 really meaty questions that I don't know that you're going to be able to ask, and we are running out of time. So one is, actually now there's 3. So one following up with Judy's, are there any positive messaging regarding a path forward? So kids got this grade now, what can they do? What can we do to support them moving forward? Then there's one about assessing basic literacy foundation skills and how that information will impact the education schooling experiences of the youngest kids. So we've got sort of both sides. And doesn't school policy require teachers to inform families the bottoming graves before they arrive?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so the last one's the easiest one. Yes, we do have in our policies and in our policy implementation procedures, the expectation that as students' grades bottom out, the teachers are reaching out to parents. So that should be happening. The literacy question, for those folks who saw Dr. Duran's monitoring report last school board meeting, we really dove deep into our PALS assessments, and we give those assessments to our students in kindergarten, first and second grade. And it's meant to identify students who may be struggling with some of the concepts and struggling with learning to read. Our English Language Arts Office has come to the recognition that PALS is not really the most efficacious screener. And so we are beginning to look at other screeners that we can use. And we are moving from sort of the workshop-based literacy instruction to structured literacy that is going to ensure that we're able to reach more of our kids at our youngest kids as they're learning. So I think we've been really proactive in looking at that. Our PALS data has been taking a nosedive and then really was impacted by the pandemic, and we're responding to that. And then the positive messaging. Yeah, I did want to make a reference that as an aside, one of the Parent Academy videos that we're working on is how to talk with your kids about their grades, and particularly about their grades in the pandemic. So we want to provide parents with some support as they're providing positive messaging, but certainly the the resiliency skills that we're teaching through the social emotional learning curricula, and the efforts, I think, on our teachers' parts to really work with our kids on grit, and on recognizing that if you're getting a grade you're unhappy with, you have the power to address it. You've got the resources to address it, and it also doesn't define you as the wonderful person that you are. So I would say, in general, there has been a real effort to provide some positive messaging.
And I can say from our standpoint, and I don't know why I haven't thought of it before now, but certainly on some of these positive messaging, we can post these on our Facebook page, and it just gives it a little bit of a boost. You know, we have 500 people who like us, not the thousands of people that you do, but maybe folks will have a chance to see it in a different way. We are out of time. There are a couple other questions, Bridget, that maybe I'll just follow up with you in the chat, but it's really been a great conversation all the way around. It was so much fun hearing from the teens, learning about restorative justice and what's going on right now in our schools. And if anybody thinks of anything after the fact, please let me know, and I'm happy to reach out to our speakers. But I know Liane put her email here. You know, we can get in touch with everybody. So are there any final thoughts, Michael or Megan? Do you have anything else you want to share with the partnership?
Just thank you. I would like to thank everyone that presented tonight, and thank you for taking the time to give us this great information. Thank you.
And happy holidays, whether you celebrate or not, whether you are near and far to those you care about most. Hopefully you will be able to connect through this wonderful world of the internet. And I just wish you all the very, very best now and in the new year. And I can't believe that the next time we officially meet will be in 2021. I mean, that's just crazy, crazy talk. But I really appreciate you all, and wish you the very, very best.
Thank you, Kim. You too.
Cheers.
Same to you, Kim.
All
Stay
right.
well.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you, Dee, for attending. I really appreciate you. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yep. All right. Stop recording.